Hello, and welcome to Culture Conversations, the podcast where we explore the people side of work. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. For years, I've found myself deep in discussions about workplace engagement with industry experts. Now I get to share this wisdom with all leaders, new and experienced, on their journeys to build cultures that maximize potential. We spend so much of our lives at work. Let's make it a place where our teams can grow and succeed. Welcome to Culture Conversations podcast. I'm Megan Robinson, and I am so excited about today's conversation with Amy Riley. Amy is an internationally renowned speaker, author, and consultant. She has over 2 decades of experience developing leaders at all levels, and her clients include Cisco Systems, Deloitte, and Google Drive. Just some brands you may or may not have heard of before. Amy also earned a Master's of Science in Training and Development with an emphasis in organizational development from Loyola University in Chicago, Illinois. She's a certified professional behavioral analyst, a certified Tiara International LLC coach, and certified in the Myers-Briggs type instrument. Her book is a #1 bestseller and is entitled The Courage of a Leader: How to Engage and Get Extraordinary Results. So excited, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me. Your book is incredible, and we always have just wonderful conversations about leadership, engagement, and you bring the inspiration tenfold to every conversation.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Yes, I've been looking forward to this conversation, Megan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So when we first chatted a little bit, we were really, and even before we started recording, we were starting to dive deep into employee engagement and really understanding what does that look like? How does that really create that culture? And I'll start with you on what is everyone's responsibility when it comes to culture?
Yes, I think understanding that it is their responsibility and that they have the power, right? That I don't come into a company and like the culture happens to me. I have the ability to impact culture in every interaction that I have. How do I want my days to look and feel? I have a direct impact on that. And I think that's really powerful when leaders can engage and empower everyone to know that they can intentionally cultivate the culture that they want.
How do you think that's a little, because I'm totally aligned with it. We already started nerding out beforehand, but what's the current perception of culture then? And how is this a little bit of a different shift from where most people are starting on that kind of culture engagement piece?
I think two things. One, we've had a transition post-pandemic, right? We used to think about, to a great degree, the culture that our company had by what we saw and felt when we walked into the four doors, right? We can see collaboration on this bulletin board. We can see people grappling with, how to serve the customer in conversations over the water cooler, right? There was this, hey, we can feel this inside of these four walls. And I know I've had lots of conversations over the past few years about, okay, now that we're virtual, we're hybrid, how do we intentionally foster culture? And it's like we gotta think about it not just within those four walls. It's happening in every connection.
What I love about this is this transition from scene culture, right? Like you kind of see that experience in a way that is very visible with what's happening on the walls, what's happening in the water cooler, what's happening on the bulletin boards, and it's that visible piece. But what's really taking away from that is how you're feeling it.
Mm-hmm. I love that call out, Megan. Yeah, yeah. And then the other transition I think is happening, is that leaders are understanding that as leaders, we're not the only ones to define the culture. We don't have to be the ones figuring it all out, right? Like, how does culture show up in a powerfully, positively impactful way day to day for everybody? It's actually best if we involve everyone in that inquiry, in that creation, right? So that it's not like this is not leadership's responsibility, but let's have leadership everywhere so that we're all thinking about the culture that we want and how we can make it happen.
I love that because it's not just that leader's vision of it anymore. Where I'm sorry, I'm like jumping on this because I'm really excited about thinking this like visual, tangible piece where it's that vision, and that's normally set by leadership teams, and it's so clear on that. Versus how does everyone want to feel? How does everyone feel at work? How are they bringing that? How are they guiding themselves? Because you can align on a vision, that's really easy, but to get people to really start feeling in the same way when it comes to that culture is a totally different ballgame. And that's kind of that difference between having some big words on the wall, oh, we have values, and actually
Mhm.
living and breathing it. And how you see that translate is that first step, but then how people embody it in a different way. So tell me more about how can you really get every employee engaged intentionally in creating that culture?
Yes. So, Megan, I think it starts with an invitation. Every team member getting an invitation from their leader that you have this power, you have this um, ability, right, and responsibility to impact how your day to day feels, to lift up the rest of the team, right? If you want to experience support and ease and teamwork, how do you create support and teamwork and ease for your colleagues? And maybe giving them examples of that, right? Hey, when the risk management group was making some decisions that were going to impact claims later on, they invited a couple people from the claims group to their discussions, right? Like there's an example of positively impacting culture, right? When so and so got a request to generate this report, they took the time to ask Anna, how is this report going to be used, right? How do you look at the numbers? How does it impact your decision making? To make sure that they are putting together the report and have the best data for how it's going to be used, and give them tangible examples that might be relevant in their role and their work about how folks positively impact culture. So first, that invitation. Then continuing, I mean, you just don't have that conversation one and done. Then,
What?
then
You can't just say, oh, we've done it, check box, check that box off.
expectations set, right? They'll be intentionally creating culture in effective ways from here to eternity. No, exploring with them, right? Asking them to reflect. How did you intentionally create culture? Those values, if you're demonstrating those on a day-to-day basis, what does that look like? Right? How would we see that from you? What are
Right.
examples, right? What were opportunities that you missed to engage with your colleagues in a different kind of way? Right? So continuing to have those conversations with team members, exploring it. And then part three, I would say recognize, right? Invitation, exploration, recognition. When you see folks intentionally cultivating culture, when you see them engaging their colleagues in an effective way, recognize that. One of my clients has a monthly award called Culture Counts, and anyone can nominate anyone for that award. And they give it out pretty frequently, they give it out monthly, right? And everybody who's nominated finds out why they were nominated. So it really does become one of those things where it's an honor to be nominated. Like if somebody noticed that
Yeah.
thing that I did, and it has everybody looking out for the positive culture impact behaviors. So it just raises awareness.
Yeah, I love that you have such a big recognition program for it, but it's also that they're keeping those best practices of even the nominees, like letting people know here's the behavior. People, I mean, positive feedback is still feedback. And
Yeah.
if you want someone to do something more, let them know that you enjoyed what they did to begin with, giving them that insight and helping them continue and perpetuate that momentum with it. So you've got
Exactly.
this invitation, and we're
Yep.
moving from invitation from a senior level. Let's define the culture to an inclusive invitation to participate with it. You've got this exploration where you're truly getting people to identify their own behaviors and actions and how they're going to participate with it in a
Yep.
day-to-day sense. And then you're recognizing the incredible accomplishments and feedback. Which piece of that do you think is hardest for organizations to start to implement?
Mm. It's probably staying up on the exploration.
That's what I
Having
was thinking. I was like, I hope it's exploration.
Yes, yes, yeah, well, you know. Yeah, that having those regular conversations, making that a part of your meetings, of your touch bases, of because that can be part of one-on-ones, that can be part of group and team conversations, right? How are we intentionally like talking more about not just what we're doing, but how we're doing it. Right. Are there more voices that we need to include in this conversation? Right? Do we need to invite somebody from claims, right? Do we need marketing as part of this conversation? Just really being intentional about how we're going about the work.
I love that. And it's so easy to forget, or I find a lot of times when you have that exploration, people just kind of throw their hands up. They're like, I don't know. I don't know how that applies to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So they need examples. Right, so
Mhm.
leaders can give team members examples, but then we need to create the conversations, the culture, the opportunities for people to share, right? And then you hear at least monthly, Culture Counts Award goes to so and so for this specific behavior or practice, right? So
Mhm.
you're continuing to get examples of it so that each individual can begin to relate that to their own world. What are my examples? What do I do day to day?
Yeah. I love and putting that in that very personal context really helps that engagement across the board and perpetuates such an incredible cycle that you're talking about, which I love. But I'm hearing a lot about inclusivity and bringing other departments. Is that about breaking down silos, or what does it really mean? Because or collaboration as kind of being a core component. What does it mean
Mhm.
to ensure the culture is really inclusive?
Yeah, probably both of that, both of that. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously there are silos in organizations, and I know some I've heard from leaders and organizations that I work with that that feels a little tougher now, right? When I don't just walk down the hall and talk to so and so from the other group, right? Now I've got to be a little bit more intentional and ping them with a Teams call or create more regular cadence touch points with folks. So I do think it's about breaking down silos. It's certainly about collaboration. How do we work well? I mean, I just even think when I'm reaching out to somebody else to make a request, do I understand the impact that's going to have on on that person in that group? Do am I telling them why this is important? Am I telling them what I'm going to do with the deliverable or the information that they're going to provide? Like, yeah, like how do I positively impact that collaboration? Make it easier for us to collaborate. Are there systems that they're used to using? Can I plunk my piece into their system to make it easier for them? And then I think it goes beyond that to we're talking a lot about DEI and B, fostering a sense of belonging, right? There's great value in diversity. And are we inviting that diversity of thought and perspective and experience into everything that we're doing? So intentionally looking at what voice is not included here, right? Oh, Maria provided that great value of connecting the dots and being the voice of the customer in the last project that we did together, right? I want to pull in Maria again to this project or to this brainstorming conversation and telling her, you provide this value. This is why I want to include you here.
I love that it's moving away from just that silo approach or creating a more collaborative. I don't think anyone out there is like, ooh, a siloed culture is what I'm going.
Right.
It's hard to say, like, oh no, don't have this culture, right? Have the culture that works for your organization. But I'm pretty sure you're not gaining a lot of support on that one. But it's more on that impact side of things, of that consideration for some other people. It's not just an empathy piece, but it's really looking at it from a strategic perspective as well as that personal perspective that you're bringing into. So it's that idea. And I love what you said, is just, what is the impact this is this going to have on other teams, other departments? And it's not beyond that kind of linear single focus. And when you're when you're saying everyone's responsible for that culture, you're
Hmm.
asking them to bring it beyond themselves.
Yes. Yes. I'm really glad that you're calling out both sides of that coin, right? Like, yes, we want to create a sense of belonging for everyone in the organization. And that brings value to you get that diversity of voice, you get the different perspectives, that's bringing value to your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes, right? It's what are some of the challenges you see with people struggling to make sure their culture is inclusive?
Yeah. I'm making two notes here. I mean, one is we're busy, our plates are full, we're moving forward, so we're just in our patterns, we're in our practices, right? So we don't see the blind spots, we're not aware, right? Like, oh, like we haven't included that group in this. So first of all, it's slowing down enough to be aware and catching that there's an opportunity here to operate differently. And then the courage to reach out and do something in a different way, to invite someone in. Like we would say, oh, Maria provided that great value, connecting the dots and being the voice of the customer. We want to invite her in here. But we might think, oh my gosh, I don't want to bother her. Like, she's really busy. I know she's got this initiative going on right now. Like, so stepping through that and trying something new, right? You're like making an offer. And maybe Maria needs to say no. I don't know. But maybe Maria will still feel great about having been invited, and that we recognized the value she provides. So, trying things in new ways, making requests, yeah, digging
Slowing
in. Like,
down, though.
I'm sorry.
I love what you said with that slowing down, though, is kind of that first step. It's always the excuse of we're too busy, we don't have time, things are moving too quickly.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to slow down, not even I mean, and the ways that we're talking about slowing down is those impacts, those considerations that are actually very big business cases that are going to slow you down if you don't bring them in earlier. And you're hurting the culture twofold now, because now you're less successful and you haven't brought someone in to collaborate with you.
Yeah.
Which is killing me. But I love that you mentioned courage, because that was my next question. I was like, these are not easy things to do. This is not an easy ask for you, for the team. How does courage play a role in creating culture?
Yeah. I think the courage to continually look, right, and become aware of opportunities to operate in new ways. Take the courage to step out and make a different kind of request. Um, and I would take that to another level, like the courage to change patterns, right? I hear chronic complaints, right? This person or this group is making requests of us, without understanding what it takes from our group in order to produce that. Okay, well, how can you shift that pattern? Right? So it might be having the courage to say, hey, if I'd like to educate you and the group on, what happens when we go through the process of generating X or Y for you, and say, Could we have that conversation? Can we educate you on that? And then, being willing to be educated by others, right? Like, we want you to learn more about what the impact is on us, help us understand more of the impact on you. Why do you make this request frequently? And, how does it help you? So again, slowing down, being willing to ask for new things, change the pattern in the conversation, being willing to listen and um, have your mind changed, right? Or have your perspective expanded.
I love that I look at it too as that willingness to step up and speak out, which
Yeah,
is
well said.
so hard for people to do and takes so much courage. And I love what you're saying with that vulnerability. It's not just the courage to change the pattern, it's the courage to change your own pattern as well. That vulnerability that you
Yes,
say you've been wrong. You may not have been doing it the right way. You may find some new information, and that inviting someone new, doing something differently puts you at risk for that. And it takes a lot of courage to step into that. Um,
absolutely.
I know you are the courage expert, and you have something extra special to share with everyone in our show notes today, right? It's going to help them
Oh,
to find
yes.
that courage.
Yes, yes, there is available on the Courage of a Leader website, what we call the Inspire Your Team assessment. And what this will do is it will take you through the behaviors of the Courage of a Leader 4 pillars. 4 pillars to demonstrating courage in an effective way at work. And so it'll give you great insight into where are you already strong and willing and able to demonstrate that courage, right? And what might be something to put on your radar or lean into in a new way.
I love that. I'm so grateful that you're willing to share that with everyone, being able to evaluate where their willingness is, even to step into this culture, or where they may not be taking that responsibility as much as they have those opportunities, is so powerful. And having a new framework to look at that is incredibly helpful as people continue to evolve their organization's culture and really share that responsibility with their entire team and move it towards a truly effective culture that everyone is participating effectively in. Amy, do you have any other last words or some wisdom that you want to share? And I just loved our conversation today.
You all have the power to impact your culture and to get those around you in engaged in the activity of generating the culture that you want. And leaders, it's not all on your shoulders. You don't have to do all the thinking and all the doing around that. Engage those around you in co-creating the culture that you all want and deserve. Let's be happy and satisfied and fulfilled at work.
It seems like a dream, but it's not. It's totally feasible and something that you can work on with some intention and with some help from Courage of a Leader, because it's going to take a lot of courage to get there. Thank you, Amy, for the lovely conversation. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Please check out the show notes and follow and connect with Amy to make sure that you are bringing a lot of courage to your organization's culture, to your leadership, because it is not something that is for the faint of heart. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Culture Conversations. I'm your host, Megan Robinson, founder of eLeader Experience, a professional leadership development company. Today, we shared actionable ideas to navigate the evolving workplace landscape, compete for talent, and build cultures that maximize potential. If you're looking to learn more about how to support your organization's leaders, you can learn more about our work at eleaderexperience.com. Now get out there and contribute positively to your organization's culture with your own conversations.